Hunter x Hunter, one of the best Japanese cartoons that even adults can enjoy. Now, obviously, I'm just joking. Adults can't enjoy cartoons. They're too busy having jobs.
Get out! Get out!
But seriously, Hunter x Hunter has been one of the most popular anime/manga series to come out, well, ever. I mean, even with these slow releases, and I mean, really slow releases, it still ranks in the top 25 highest selling manga series of all time, which is pretty impressive. And things seem to be looking up since Togashi has found a way to cope with his back problems while also continuing to work on Hunter, which, regardless of the manga series releasing in general, is just good to see for the man. But even though Hunter is very popular, I think what needs to be said about this anime is that, well, it's a little overrated. Now, hold on. Before you start dislike botting the video and writing your mean comments down below, let me explain myself. Now, firstly, just because I say something is overrated does not mean I think it's bad. In fact, I actually enjoyed watching Hunter a lot, and I'm pretty hyped to read the next handful of chapters we get, whenever they may come out. But, I will say, I think a lot of people tend to overlook its bad qualities. I mean, when you think of shows that people tend to recommend to new anime watchers, Hunter x Hunter is one of the first to come up, if not the first. And when people put this show on such a high pedestal, there seems to be an aura surrounding this anime of it being better than it actually is. And if you guys will indulge me for a little bit and maybe rewatch the anime, I think you will all see where I'm coming from. That it's just not as good as you remember. Now, when I say this, please keep in mind that I'm only talking about the 2011 anime and not the actual manga, because I actually think the manga is very fairly rated for many reasons. But I'm not just making inflammatory statements with nothing to back it up. I'm going to be going over this point by point, explaining exactly why I feel this way. And naturally, of course, this is my opinion, and just like assholes, we've all got one. So be sure to leave yours in the comments section below. Your opinion, that is, not the other thing. That'd be weird. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and share it with a friend, family member, dog, cat, grandma, really anybody that likes anime. And with that being said, my name is Koji Mike, and this is a mic drop. Now, in order to really understand my feelings on Hunter, I think it's really important to talk about the man behind the creation. Yoshihiro Togashi is no novice when it comes to the manga scene, as he's produced the critically acclaimed Yu Yu Hakusho as well as the lesser known Level E. It's not often that mangaka have breakout successes, let alone 2 of them, but Hunter has in many ways outshined its predecessor, which is even rarer. And what always seems to hook readers in is one of the things I actually really like the most about Togashi as an author, and that is the amazing concepts that he comes up with. With Yu Yu Hakusho, it was the idea of Yusuke becoming a spirit detective and solving supernatural mysteries. And with Hunter, it was the idea of exploring a zany and wacky world, one that only people with the title of Hunter could experience. But both of them fell under the trap of becoming a battle shonen very quickly, which is just slightly disappointing to me. But I mean, he did create some of the best arcs in history with that, like the Dark Tournament and the Chimera Ant arcs. But there's just something in me that would have really liked him to stray away from that path overall, but I digress. Oh shit. Oh god, I can't do a fake cough, come on. But hey, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Before we talk about where it falls short to me, I do want to highlight some of the amazing things you get out of watching a show like Hunter x Hunter. Firstly, like I said before, it's the world. The world building Togashi does is fantastic, and he really does a great job of making his idea huge and interesting. Envision it, an occupation that only the best of the best can obtain, getting to hunt the world of exotic treasures, creatures, and whimsical lands that are inaccessible to the modern person. Just putting that concept on paper is good enough, but with Togashi at the helm, well, it's gonna be amazing. Secondly, character arcs. Even if you haven't watched any anime, almost everyone knows of or has at least seen a picture of Killua before. And it's not just because he looks cool, although I will say that is definitely a reason. But the main reason has to be because he's, well, a loved character. He has a lot of depth and complexity behind him, from his family to his relationship with Gon. You can definitely see Togashi puts a lot of care into his character work. Thirdly, I think his attention to detail is impeccable. Detail in his stories for sure, but I'm mostly talking about the detail that goes into the explanation for the powers in Hunter. The information provided to us about Nen is very well thought out and carefully constructed, and I always appreciate that about a person's work. With Nen, it actually feels pretty tangible. Sure, the explanations can be a bit lengthy at times, but I think that's what makes it work so well. Any battle shonen can give their characters powers with some easy to grasp explanation for how they work. But there's always some sort of disconnect there that can make you go, look at me, Hector. Look at me. How's this supposed to work? But with Nen, Togashi will never give you a chance to ask that question. You'll get about 20 walls of text before that happens. And finally, that Chimera Ant arc without a doubt is one of the best arcs in anime history. Everyone who's watched anime knows this. But no. While there are some good things that I do really like about the show, there are also some really glaring problems. And since we're speaking about Chimera Ant, let's talk about one of the most important scenes in it, which of course was the death of Kite. I don't know if this was just me, but that death had so much weight on it for Gon, and honestly, as a person who was watching Hunter x Hunter for the first time anime only, I didn't understand why. In the show, he sure was a student of Jing, but to throw basically his entire life away for the guy just really didn't make that much sense to me. Look, I'm not saying that Kite was a bad character or that we should be applauding Pito like their Homelander. I just didn't understand why Gon was so mad. At least that was the case until I found out that in the manga and 99 version of the anime, there was a very important scene cut completely out of the 2011 version between Kite and Gon. It may not seem like it would affect the overall relationship, but if you read the panels, you would understand that the interaction itself was the whole reason why Gon became a hunter in the first place. From it, he not only learned that his father was still alive, but that he was also a hunter. And the reason Mito lied to him was more than likely to make sure Gon didn't go down the same path as he did. And Kite and Gon seemed to form a bond during this small amount of time, but it was a bond no less that would set the course for the entire series. So the fact that it was cut out from the 2011 version of the show is actually kind of insane. And I know that they did make slight references to it by talking about how Kite saved Gon from the Fox Bear attack, but they definitely needed to add a bit more context to the relationship. And I get it, it was put in the 99 anime, but to me, it just never made any sense to cut it out of the most well-known version of the show. Like I said, there are a lot of people that just watched the 2011 version blind, and that part left a lot of people confused. But I guess that is kind of a minor nitpick though, since you can look this information up between the manga and the OG anime. So it's not like you can't find this stuff out, but the next area I feel Hunter falls short is particularly egregious, no matter how you look at it. And this one is where I think most Hunter fans can agree on, and that is that Greed Island, look, it's actually a really great concept on paper. Getting to enter a hunter-only video game that's pretty much impossible to clear is definitely an intriguing plot. However, it was just not executed properly, at least in my opinion. What I disliked most about this arc, without a doubt, has to be the villains. Genthru and his lackeys were just really shallow and poorly developed. I mean, I couldn't even remember the fucker's name until I began scripting this video. That's how bland he is. I had to go look it up on the fucking wiki. Like, I'm fine with a villain having a really simple motivation, like just wanting to make a bunch of money. That's cool. But if there's nothing fascinating or interesting about the characters, in addition to their very basic motivations, then what's the point of them even existing? On top of the boring main villain, they also do this really boring training arc within the show that was just so unappealing to me. It honestly just felt more like filler than anything super important to the series. Sure, it led them to leveling up their nen abilities, which in itself is kind of important, but I just didn't care for the execution. By the way, was I the only person that rolled their eyes when they tried to make us feel bad for the psychopath serial killer? I mean, come on, guys. Listen, he kind of had a rough childhood. It's completely understandable why he murdered a lot of people. Going back to what I said initially about loving the concept, I really did enjoy the whole card game aspect of the game. Having the rare collectibles and the idea of having to potentially risk your life to get them seems exciting. And then the focus just shifted completely. Sure, they all had to technically risk their lives to get them, but was it in the form of a grand quest? Possibly in a dungeon with a huge boss battle at the end to get these rare cards? Well, you know the answer. No, it wasn't. It was just basically work with everyone else in the game to stop the fucking glasses nerd guy. And I mean, aren't there supposed to be like 100 cards in total? And yes, even though the mechanics of the game was used, I felt like it wasn't used enough to be important to the show. Like out of 100 cards, maybe like 3 or 4 got used. Most of the time it was just that a company card. I will say though, there was a decent part of Greed Island that happened, and that of course is the dodgeball game with Razor. And it wasn't only the fact that it was a great fight game? Nah, we'll go with fight. But it also gave a lot of good character building to Gon and Killua. But even then, it was kind of annoying because they built up the fact that Razor knew Jing very well and he barely talked about him. Overall, I just think this entire arc was just wasted potential. Huh. Kind of common with these kind of concepts. But since we're on the topic of arcs, you know what? Why don't we talk about Chimera? Wait, guys, before you put your fist through your monitor, I understand Chimera Ant is one of the greatest arcs in anime history. But there are some problems. Oh, come on, guys! Besides the fact that Kite's death kind of lost a bit of that kick because of what I said earlier, there are a lot of pacing issues during this arc. It's really throughout the entire show, but mostly in Chimera. I specifically remember when Gon's group is about to storm Meruem's palace, and how much of that just really dragged on way too much. The narrator, while appreciated, doesn't need to explain every single thing that goes on. It really almost ruined a lot of the good moments during that arc. Like, I do understand the intentions behind having the narrator play more of a prominent role, but sometimes less is really more. I don't need to know how every character is feeling in an exact instance of the show from some third party. Let the actual character show it themselves. And I mean, even the biggest Hunter fan will agree with this sentiment. At least, I hope they do. Which leads me to my next point. The fights, they're not really that good. Well, let me rephrase that. It's not that the fights are particularly boring or poorly animated, it's just very predictable to the point where I don't even really feel that invested in the battle. And going into this anime, sure, it was more advertised as an adventure type show rather than a battle shonen, but people will still label it as a battle shonen. And with that in mind, I just don't think the fights are as interesting as they could have been. What I mean by that is they are way too predictable, and they'll usually have very big power gaps between the two fighters. Netero and Meruem, Gon and Pito, Killua and Yuppie, these are just a few examples of this being the case, and there's definitely more if you think back on it. I just want it to be a bit suspenseful sometimes, you know what I mean? And look, I get that not all fights need to be amazingly choreographed, evenly matched spectacles to be labeled as good, but it would definitely have been nice to see a couple of them for the really important character fights. I will say though, to make up for this problem, what Hunter does right and differently is having the fights be good character development segments for people. I think back to Shoot and Knuckle being great examples of this, and of course Gon too. So this next point isn't really a flaw with Hunter per se, but just a lot of battle shonen in general. But hey, just because a lot of anime fucks it up doesn't mean you should too, Togashikins. And what I'm talking about is the lack of permanent consequences for the main cast. I'm not saying that there are never any stakes in these types of shows, but for the most part, you can feel pretty safe that your favorite main character will be alright, with the worst experience usually being a beloved side character getting the short end of the stick. Whether it's super healing, the power of friendship, or literally magical orbs that can bring everyone back to life. God, don't get me started on Dragon Ball. There's always got to be something protecting the main cast from getting axed. And Hunter is not an exception here. Hunter Exam, nothing. Heaven's Arena, nada. Greed Island, well, you get the picture, there's nothing. Then comes the Chimera Ant Arc. Finally, some consequences, right?
No!
I mean, yeah, I guess Kite did die, which admittedly was a pretty important thing that happened and got done in by Pito pretty much instantly. It really did raise the stakes in the arc. And yeah, I guess Netero did also happen too, but that kind of falls into that side character thing we were talking about. But hey, what about Gon? He finds out about Kite being killed, loses his shit, and then sacrifices everything to get his revenge and gets put on life support. Okay, I think finally Togashi broke the wheel. Oh, what the f- Okay, wait, so you're telling me that after all of the rules that were previously set by Togashi to make Gon finally have some real consequences to his actions, they get reversed by some MacGuffin he pulled out of his ass? Okay, fine. I get it though. He is the main character. But at least we have Kite's death, right? Right?
He gets brought back to life too.
I mean, there wasn't even a consequence for the Nanika wish, which, by the way, the entire audience thought Killua was gonna have to pay some crazy price when having Nanika fix Gon. Just to find out that Killua is a special little snowflake and doesn't have to pay the price that others would otherwise have to. Sure, I guess that's fun, fine, who cares? But it really took away from Gon's sacrifice, even if it was for the sake of Killua's character development. Speaking of that though, all of this typical anime shit, in my opinion, actually hurts the character development of Killua and especially Gon. Look, I'm not gonna sit here and say Gon was my favorite character or anything. In fact, he's actually pretty bland if you ask me.
Damn!
I'm sorry.
But I really thought they were building to something with this character. Sure, the journey was about finding his father, but another part of it was also dealing with his personal demons of constantly throwing caution to the wind all the time and not caring about anyone else but the goal. The auctioneer talking about Gon's viewpoint on good and evil, hurting Killua at the dodgeball match, sacrificing his arm to be Genthru in his own way. All of these moments were supposed to lead up to him making an irreversible mistake that would hurt himself and everyone else he cares about. That was supposed to happen in Chimera with Pito. Him being selfish should have costed him everything, but in reality, what did he lose? His Nen abilities? Come on, man, you and I both know that's not gonna happen. Even his dad said he can get them back. Alright, so I'm actually gonna have to cut in here and make a correction. In the actual official translation of the manga, Jing doesn't outright state that Gon could use his Nen again. But I will say, he didn't say that he couldn't either. But honestly though, it's very debatable what will play out for Gon's story in the future. There's definitely still some unfinished business with him, but I hope his Nen does stay gone for good. I honestly feel there's just a lot more interesting things you can do with his character that way. Either way though, this video isn't about the manga, it's about the 2011 anime. So with that in mind, let's just go with what we know in the anime, especially since there are a fair bit of differences between the anime and manga. And even if, and I can't stress this enough, if Gon's Nen abilities are gone, it kind of sucks that all of this buildup we had throughout the show led to him having a consequence that I don't really know really affected him mentally. What I'm trying to say is that after the consequence eventually happened for his actions, there wasn't really anything afterwards to it. It kind of just ended the show. And we don't really know if Gon actually learned something from his mistakes. And the people who are trying to say that, oh, the anime is not finished, so you can't really judge that. I mean, he did complete his goal effectively, so the story could very well end here, and the anime would not have to return, especially considering how slow the releases are for the manga chapters. But here's what I'll say if he does get his Nen abilities back in the future though. And I don't know about you guys, but in my personal experience with people, they don't change unless something drastic happens, and to me, Gon is still the same guy he's always been. And that's pretty disappointing. Again, this is a problem with a lot of shonen anime. Ichigo getting his Soul Reaper powers back really jumps out here, but that doesn't make it okay. As for Killua, it's not so much about getting Gon his body back as much as it is about Alluka and Nanika. What I mean by this is that Killua's entire story arc is about him learning to be more independent and not to glorify another person because they too have flaws. That was his big moment of realization with Gon during Chimera, that he put him on too high of a pedestal. But then in comes Alluka, a wish-granting genie basically, who, by the way, messes up the whole power scaling part of the show, who kills many people whose wishes she grants, and oh my god, yep, there it is, he's put another character on a pedestal. I mean, Killua literally calls her perfect the way she is. And let me remind you, Nanika is a murder baby. Look, I'm not trying to say I'm some sort of sadist that enjoys having characters he likes get messed up, but I am someone that likes to be thrown a curveball once in a while. I'm just asking you to make me feel something intense. Whether it's good or bad doesn't really matter to me.
You what?
Speaking of making me feel something, one of those somethings is a rant about how Hunter x Hunter made me feel when I first started watching it. I said this earlier, but Hunter x Hunter comes off as this whimsical, zany world that is ripe for exploring, adventuring, and, you know, so on. We see all of these strange creatures, are told of the people that hold the title of Hunter, and the off-limit parts of the world that only they can explore. And for the most part, we don't really get to see any of that in the show. Sure, there are a few glimpses here and there, but the most prominent one is literally in the last episode when Gon meets Jing at the top of the world tree. To me, it's such a tease of what's to come when I really feel like it should have been what I wanted to experience all the way through. Pause on that sentence, by the way.
Hey, yeah.
I want to see these locations not grounded in reality. I want to see the weird beasts that inhabit them, and heck, even throw some bizarre treasure with unique attributes just to spice things up a bit. And I'm certain that as the manga chugs along, we just may get what I'm talking about here. But I'm not talking about the manga. I'm talking about what the show gave us, and quite frankly, it just wasn't enough to satiate that itch. And look, I want to be clear again, I truly do love what we got, but that doesn't mean I can't critique it and ponder what could have been or what I would have preferred. The character building and hardcore fleshing out of Nen seems to have been what Togashi wanted to focus on the most, and I absolutely respect that. But it just makes me wonder, was it not possible to have gotten all three of those things at once? And finally, I think the biggest problem I have with this anime is something that has been a common theme throughout most of my points. And that is the fact that there is a lot of wasted and missed potential. Yes, we covered Greed Island, but there's also a lot more to unpack here. I mean, what about Kite's transition from a grown adult man to a child with feminine-like features? I mean, it would have been really fascinating to get into Kite's mind to get some real insight onto how they were feeling making a transition like that. Look, I think it's cool that Togashi didn't make a big deal out of it. I just think there was a missed opportunity there. And speaking of missed opportunities, there was a lot of plot points that I felt had potential that barely got any screen time. I mean, do you remember the NGL or the East Gorteau? I wouldn't really blame you, because even though they are interesting plot points, they never really got explored. Now sure, they would have had to extend the story a bit, but then why bring it up in the first place? I mean, sure, it's interesting, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't affect the plot that much, does it? I do have to mention though that the anime does deviate a bit from the manga in several cases, specifically with the founder of the NGL, Gyro. So I guess in regards to the manga, they may fulfill the missed potential that was in the anime, but it definitely still needs to be highlighted since we are talking about the anime and not the manga. And combine that with the fact that one of the main characters, Leorio, gets completely shafted throughout the entire story, that just really sucks for me, because I love Leorio. Like, I mean, look at his Nen ability. He literally just shows up with the power-up and no build-up whatsoever, while everyone else got a little story. Like, what the hell, man? You gotta put some respect on my man, Mr. Leorio, please. Now listen, like I said in the beginning, just because I think this show is overrated doesn't mean I think Hunter is bad. I actually like the show, and I feel it's definitely one of the better animes out there, but I feel people need to stop talking about how amazingly perfect the anime is. And of course, these are just my opinions, and in no way, shape, or form are they factual, so feel free to call me a contrarian in the comment section below. That's completely fine. But I'd honestly love to hear what you all have to say, so leave your thoughts on this video and Hunter x Hunter in general in the comment section below. I'm genuinely interested to see how the manga is going to end, and I really hope that we'll get to see it happen. And with that being said, my name is Kojamike, leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you all in the next video.